The following programme was first broadcast in 2012.
BBC Radio 2.
And winding up the show this week, Dusty Springfield, aided by one of the Echoes, sings the Charlie and Annie's Fox hit, Mockingbird.
This week at the BBC, we're going to be tracing the career of one of the UK's greatest ever singers. She came from a folk background in the 1960s, but soon moved into pop, soul, and a whole lot more. I'm Johnny Walker, and for the next hour, you can listen to Dusty Springfield at the BBC.
Sit you down beside us and we'll take you back a while, marching down through Georgia and a-counting every mile. Handsome boy was John McGuire, he set 100 hearts on fire when he was marching through Georgia. Don't look away, Georgia, don't look away, Georgia. Annie from Atlanta said,
"What, John, you're looking thin. Army cooking don't compare with mine.
So come on in." She baked him such a tasty pie, he somehow couldn't say goodbye. Life was so rosy until he heard her say,
Dear John, please name the wedding day. Dear John, the judge lives just across the way.
Said John, I think it's time I went back to join my regiment. I'm just marching through Georgia. Don't look away, Georgia, don't look away, Georgia. Phoebe down in Phoenix said,
My home's in such a state, I could use a handyman
to help me decorate. To help a lady was the crime. We stayed around till summertime. Life was so rosy until he heard us say,
Dear John, please name the wedding day. Dear John, the judge lives just across the way.
Said John, I think it's time I went back to join my regiment. I'm just marching through Georgia. Don't look away, Georgia, don't look away, Georgia. Susie from Savannah said,
I'm far too young for you,
but her lips are rosy and her eyes were baby blue. Said John, I kinda like this town, McGuire, it's time to settle down. Life was so rosy, 'cause soon he heard her say, she said, Dear John, please name the wedding day. Dear John, the judge lives just across the way. A warning we must give to you. You see what big blue eyes can do when you go marching through Georgia.
I answered an ad in The Stage for established Sister Act needs member, and I thought that would be a hoot. I needed stage experience. I had none, you know. I mean, doing deb balls and doing smart drinking clubs in Belgravia was no real training. It was training to be able to tune out idiots. Oh, she's got her banjo. My brother and I used to play the guitar. Sing K-la la la la. They always wanted you to sing something they'd heard on their skiing holes. But that was good training. But I knew that if I joined something that, an act that actually worked, not in this sort of semi-amateur way, but actually got booked by Tito Burns and things, actually went and did American air bases. Oh, and that's, if you can survive that, it's excellent training, so that when the Springfields came along, I actually was the only one who'd ever set foot on a stage before. Tumbling down. Call the boys and tell them, say I won't be there. If you see my darling out there in the crowd, say I still remember promises we vowed. Yesterday was dreamy, but my dream came tumbling down. Say I won't be there. Bring me back my darling, be my friend for life. Now, I don't want no new lover, I just want a true lover. Call the boys and tell them I won't spoil their fun. Everyone they're dancing, but I'm the lonely one. Yesterday was dreamy, but my dream came tumbling down. Call the boys and tell them, say I won't be there. Bring me back my darling, be my friend for life. Oh, I don't want no new lover, I just want a true lover. Call the boys and tell them I won't spoil their fun. Everyone they're dancing, but I'm the lonely one. Yesterday was dreamy, but my dream came tumbling down. Call the boys and tell them, say I won't be there. I won't be there.
On September the 24th, 1963, the Springfields played their last performance at the London Palladium. Tom moved into songwriting, and Mike eventually found success as Cat Stevens' record producer. Within 6 weeks of the group disbanding, Dusty was on the road, not directly to top-line stardom, but to Bolton, as part of the Brian Poole and the Tremolos, Searchers and Freddie and the Dreamers autumn package that year. Everything went to plan, and within days her first solo record, I Only Want to Be With You, had entered the charts.
I mean, I was just very lucky. I mean, we finished officially at the London Palladium. I didn't have to exactly claw my way to the top. It was fairly calculated, which was really kind of weird for someone who really didn't know that much. I knew enough to know that I didn't want to fight my way back up again. There are psychological moments for things, and I had enough intuition to know. And the buzz, there was a buzz. And I knew that when I did sort of solo things, and the audience reaction to that, I mean, it just made it quite clear that that's what I should do.
Dusty Springfield joined by the Breakaways now in a little tossing and turning. Now this came as a surprise to us at rehearsal, and a very pleasant one too. Dusty gives us a very personal interpretation of the song with which the Animals recently made #1, The House of the Rising Sun.
There is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many poor girls. And Lord, I know I'm one.
Yeah, io che non vivo più un'ora senza te. Yeah. Well, I wish you had the Italian version of it, actually. It was a terrific song. I heard it at the San Remo Festival in Italian by a singer called Pino Donaggio. And he wrote the song. And I just fell madly in love with it. And I said, gotta have that song. And never sort of sat on it for a year without any English lyrics. And didn't forget about it, but it just didn't come up. It wasn't the right time for it. And then eventually just said to a friend, I really want to do this rather quickly, so can you write some lyrics?
Ed io lo so perché so che tu vuoi dirmi che non sei felice, che io sto cambiando e tu mi vuoi lasciare. Io che non vivo più di un'ora senza te, come posso stare una vita senza te?
I'm very glad for what I had before, because I wouldn't like to start all over again. So essentially it really isn't a start over. I mean, things would be quite different. I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now if I was starting a new and never been heard of before. It's a different feeling. There's I feel an affection from people, and I feel an affection for them here, and that is very warming for me, and it makes it feel right, and it makes me look forward to doing it.
When I said I needed you, you said you would always stay. It wasn't me who changed, but you, and now you've gone away. Don't you see that now you've gone, and I'm left here all alone, that I have to follow you and beg you to come home. You don't have to say you love me just because that you don't have to stay forever. Believe me, I can't help but love you. But believe me, I'll never tie you down. Left alone with just a memory. Life seems dead and so unreal. All that's left is loneliness. There's nothing left to feel. You don't have to say you love me just because that you don't have to stay forever.
But the alter ego's always been there. It still is. And I would say the alter ego is more the critic. The critic is always there. I'll smash it down into the ground sometimes. But I don't know whether it was innate conceit or stupidity or genuine information about myself that led me to believe that it would all work out. I had no idea. I remember two things. Bunny Lewis, who's a manager, who used to manage the Mudlarks way back. And he had two criticisms of me. He said, A, you'll never make it, you're too intelligent, and B, you'll never make it because you can't make up your mind what you want to sing. Because at that time I was out on the road and I was doing needles and pins before Searchers did it and things. I would do lots of things that I'd heard in the States that weren't famous here. And so I had a pretty, even then, fairly eclectic taste. But because I was so convinced of what I was singing, it worked with audiences. But he just said, you're going to have to make up your mind what you want to sing, which was the beginning of my realizing that people need to pigeonhole you. And all the early recordings, I mean, some songs were brought to me, but basically I found the songs. And if I could sing them, that was right. It didn't matter if it was something from the 17th century or something from the Amazon on some of the albums. Maybe that's why they didn't sell as well as they might have done, because I insisted on putting oddities in. But that was my musical upbringing anyway. I mean, I didn't know what pop music was till 18 years old, I suppose. I mean, I was raised on classical music and jazz and Brazilian music, which was a very odd upbringing for two small Irish children, really.
By the back end of the 60s, Dusty had felt she'd achieved most of her goals in Britain. Having had a modicum of success in the USA, it was good enough reason for her to concentrate her career on the States. She'd been itching for the chance since her garage days in High Wycombe.
I had cracked it on intermittent level before that. After all, I Only Want to Be With You was a hit, Wishing and Hoping was a hit. This is before I moved. The Look of Love, You Don't Have to Say You Love Me. I'd had quite a few hits, but I was never there to take advantage of it. I mean, I'd sort of be there to promote and then disappear off again. And I just decided that I wanted to spend more time there. And after all, let's see, 63 to 69, 6 years was a long time to sort of be functioning at a very high-profile level. And I, as I said, I'm fairly intuitive. I mean, there wasn't anywhere else I could go. It's a small country. So, yes, I mean, it was partly sort of wanderlust, which I will always have. I still look at planes flying over and wished I was on them.
Wishing and hoping and thinking and praying, planning and dreaming each night of his charms that won't get you into his arms. So if you're looking to find love, you can share. All you gotta do is hold him and kiss him and love him and show him that you care. Show him that you care just for him. Do the things he likes to do. Wear your hair just for him. 'Cause you won't get him thinking and a praying, wishing and a hoping. Just wishing and hoping and thinking and praying, planning and dreaming. His kisses will start that won't get you into his heart. So if you're thinking of how great true love is, all you gotta do is hold him and kiss him and squeeze him and love him. Yeah, just do it. And after you do, you will be his. You gotta show him that you care just for him. Do the things he likes to do. Wear your hair just for him. You won't get him thinking and a praying, wishing and a hoping. Just wishing and hoping and thinking and praying, planning and dreaming. His kisses will start that won't get you into his heart. So if you're thinking of how great true love is, all you gotta do is hold him and kiss him and squeeze him and love him. Yeah, just do it. And after you do, you will be his. You will be his. You will be Billy Ray was a preacher's son. When his daddy refused that he'd come along. When they gathered around and started talking, Cousin Billy would take me walking. Out through the backyard we go walking. Then he looked into my eyes. Lord knows to my surprise, the only one who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man. The only boy who could ever teach me was the son of a preacher man. Yes, he was. He was. Yes, he was. Being good isn't always easy, no matter how hard I try. When he started sweet talking to me, come and tell me everything is alright. Listen, tell me everything is alright. Can I get away again tonight? The only one who could ever
Dusty in Memphis, her most complete and critically acclaimed album recorded in 1968, gave her the rightful and lasting accolade she deserved from all quarters of the music industry. It also gave her the chance to put together on one album the songs of her favourite composers. Yet, after all the years of wishing and hoping to find that sound she believed was rightfully hers, she wasn't completely happy with the outcome. Ever the self-critic, Dusty never felt quite so euphoric about the album as others.
No, I didn't, and I probably still don't. But what I see in hindsight, and it's always in hindsight, I should never judge things at the time because I'm not objective, is that the record has a real atmosphere and a continuity to it. There are a couple of things that don't belong on it. But unlike the other albums, which were all over the place, because I was doing the choosing, these were mutually chosen by Jerry and I, and Jerry Wexler and I, and Tom. And it showed that there was a real continuity to it and a feeling. The further I am away from it, the better I think it is. And I suppose it took me a long time to distance myself. This happens, that I'm no good at accepting praise at the time. I've become a lot less inwardly arrogant than I used to be, in that I didn't show my arrogance, but my inner arrogance was, it's not good enough. Why do you say it's good? It can't be good because I say it's no good. I'd be smiling and say thank you, but I couldn't take the praise in because the critic was functioning full time. That stopped a lot. I now have reached a point, well, over the past few years, that say, you know, that's pure arrogance on your part. What you have to learn is that they like it, and that's why you're here. That's your job.
Just a little loving early in the morning beats a cup of coffee for starting off the day. Just a little loving when the world is yawning makes you wake up feeling good things are coming your way. This whole world wouldn't be half as bad, it wouldn't be half as sad if each and everybody in it had just a little loving early in the morning, that little extra something to kind of see them through. Nothing turns the day on, really gets it done, like a little bit of loving from some loving someone like you. This whole world wouldn't be half as bad, it wouldn't be half as sad if each and everybody in it had just a little loving early in the morning. Just a little loving when the world is
A complex character, never seemingly happy with her achievements, was dogged by misfortune almost as soon as she moved to America. The reclusive years followed, interrupted by odd record releases and erratic behaviour.
Dusty Springfield has been a foreign affair for a long while now, choosing to live in America and choosing for 4 years not to record. She returns now with all-attendant publicity and still in great voice too, with a new album made in Los Angeles. Here's just one track from It Begins Again, and then Dusty talks to Bob Kilby.
I broke your heart and I made you blue. Instead of hurting back, you said I love you. That very day you won my heart, and my love for you shall never part. You have such an understanding way, and I appreciate you. Believe what I say, 'cause a love like yours don't come knock, 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 yeah, knock,
first of all, Dusty, I must say it's really good to see you back in Britain again after all these years. How many years is it, in fact?
It's only 4 years. I read one newspaper report that said after an absence of 10 years. I think for me it seemed like 10 years, but it's only 4.
Well, I think a lot of your fans will be interested to hear what prompted your decision to drop out of Britain in the first place, because you'd established yourself really as the undisputed top British girl singer of the 60s, and it was really a surprise when you went.
I think that's, you sort of said it, of the 60s. Early in the 70s I sensed that were beginning to have enough of me, and I was certainly beginning to have enough of the disenchantment I was feeling. You know, I didn't know what else I could do I could stand on my head or strip or whatever it was, and they weren't that impressed anymore, and my ego was getting a little bit, I don't know, it's just that it wasn't stimulating anymore, and it wasn't fun anymore, and it's very nice that one can have a job where it is fun, and I think it's essential that it is fun, otherwise it comes over that you're jaded. And I needed that sense of fun, of enjoyment in the work, because it wasn't coming over. It all became very serious and almost a drudgery.
The album title, It Begins Again, obviously refers to you picking up the threads of your career. What actually brought you out of voluntary retirement?
I felt that this is what I was supposed to do. I thought of many other things, but I don't have training as anything else. I'm not comfortable doing anything else. It seemed, and I talked to a lot of people, and they said, "Oh, for heaven's sake, you should be doing it." And they seem to be right. I can't think of anything else I want to do.
Well, it's been produced by Roy Thomas Baker of Queen fame, and I think it really captures a variety of styles, Dusty. There are songs by such diverse writers as Carol Bayer Sager, Nona Hendrix, Holland Dozier Holland. How much choice did you have in the material?
Just about everything. He gave me. Let's say it was. We went through it together all the time, just prior to going in the studio. And Roy bought some songs, and I had a list. A lot of good songs were thrown away because to try and get the more substantial ones on the album. But we did it together. I had a lot of the material already. I'd rather leave while I'm in love, while I still believe the meaning of the word. I keep my dreams and just pretend that you and I were never meant to end. Too many times I've seen the rose down the vine. Somebody's heart gets broken, and usually it's mine. I don't wanna take the chance of being hurt again. And you and I can't say goodbye. So if you wait and find me gone, oh babe, just carry on. See, I need my fantasy. I still believe it's best to leave while I'm alone.
Well, you're really not keen on dwelling on past successes, I believe, because, in fact, you've even asked the record company to delete some of your old material, which sounds a bit drastic. Why was that?
Well, purely because not delete. I mean, just not sell it for a while. They had released over and over and over again the same songs, and it's not a matter of dwelling or not dwelling on it. I'm very grateful for it. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't be here talking to you. That I didn't really want to compete with the past. That people already have a very strong image of what I was, and they are rather inclined to think that that's what I am now. And in fact, I've not changed that much. I hope that I'm an extension of what I was. But to try and compete with an image, no matter how valid that was, would be a mistake for a while. And to re-establish and perhaps a little bit of a new image, and then be safe with it, and have people be comfortable with it if they are, and then re-release things perhaps. That would be fun for me too. But not now, not yet.
It's not been all roses for you in the States, though, has it? I mean, I was reading all sorts of newspaper reports suggesting drugs, depression. I mean, how much of that was fact?
Well, what else are they going to write? You know, I mean, I can't think of anything. They've always written that about everybody, and I've essentially always had a reputation as a drama queen anyway. And it's enjoyable for them to write that. After all, it makes some kind of angle. I did get very depressed and very despondent. I mean, if you sit around and things are not going your way and you wonder really what the hell you should be doing, what else are you going to do? And try and get it reorganized, but not do it on your own, because I didn't have any management, and not feeling comfortable with Los Angeles and feeling sort of awash and adrift. It was a very despondent period in my life, and things were not easy at all. And I'm really very pleased that I have an English manager, because what it's done is give me some roots within Los Angeles, and he lives there. I'm there at the moment, and it's nice. It gives me a feeling of solidarity there, and I needed that because I was just floating all over the place.
Her lifestyle became the focus of the media, and several attempts to realign her career became pantomime. Just as the journalists were beginning to write her off, a distant admiration from the highly popular Pet Shop Boys salvaged her pride. Her relationship with the duo gave her records a new edge, a crisp and badly needed contemporary sound that would also complement her past glories.
There's a tremendous amount of baggage in being somebody for so long. If people grew up with you and you are very much part of their evolvement as human beings, i.e. the 60s, and then you go away, which I did for quite some time, 15 years or so, more. They grow up, they get older, they get married, they have kids, and they sort of retain a place, if they think of you at all, they retain a place for you as you were. They've grown, they've become different people. You come back, they expect you to be the same person. They forget that they're not, but they have this fixed idea, and to shake free of that person, that they still have that vision of you. I mean, if you go and sit, I don't know, in Marlow, I went to a tea room there, and the waitress said, "Oh, you have changed, haven't you?" And I thought, "Well, you bloody have too." Excuse my language, you know. Have you looked in the mirror recently? Yes, I'm different. We're both older, I wanted to say. We're both different people. But she had still seen me that way.
She tried to go to Spain. She
Now, the pages of today's papers are full of glowing tributes to Dusty Springfield, whose death was announced yesterday. And there are fantastic photos of the 60s and those famous panda eyes. She died a month short of her 60th birthday, and in the week she should have collected her OBE from the palace. Well, it was 4 years ago that I met her when she was still battling with breast cancer. A great occasion, after all. I was one of those teenage girls who loaded on the eyeliner and the mascara, backcombed her hair, and wanted to be just like Dusty.
You start to smile at me, asked if I cared to dance. I fell into your open arms, and I didn't stand a chance. Now listen, honey, I just wanna be beside you everywhere. As long as we're together, honey, I don't care. 'Cause you started something, oh, can't you see? That ever since we met, you had a hold on me. No matter what you do, I only wanna be with you.
Her first solo single in 1963. Now, when I met her in October 95, I had to ask her if it was true she used to sleep with her eye makeup on for up to a week at a time.
Yeah, well, you get that marvellous build-up if you do that. I mean, you know, there was so much on, it would take an awful lot to get it off. Sort of a few hammers and spanners and things. So, well, between that and the beehive. And I mean, I used to show up, the bus would wait to take us on these tours, and it would always wait round the side of Madame Tussauds. And we'd start off at 8 to go to Llandudno or somewhere. And I used to arrive at 8 looking like that, you know. So there wasn't, we probably only got home at 5. So I'd sleep bolt upright with my eye makeup on. It was just so exhausting.
There's a light, a certain kind of light that never shone on me. I want my life to be, live with you, live with you. There's a way, everybody said, to do each and every little thing. What does it mean if I can't have you? If I can't have you, can't have you. If I can't have you, you don't know what it's like. Baby, you don't know what it's like to love somebody, love somebody the way I love you. In my brain, I see your face again. I know my frame of mind. Yes, I do. You didn't have to be so blind. Oh, so blind. So blind. You're a man. Now, baby, can't you see what I am? I live and I breathe for you. What else can I do if I can't have you? If I can't have you, can't have you. If I can't have you, you don't know.
I'm Johnny Walker, and for the last hour you've been listening to Dusty Springfield at the BBC.
This is Radio 2 on the BBC Sounds app, on digital radio, and on 88 to 91 FM.